Welcome to Cataclysm Magazine. We can be found on the web at www.cataclysm.com. I'm Jason JROCK Houston, and it's my pleasure to be speaking with lead singer Norman Skinner. And Norman, you are from the band Niviane. Am I pronouncing that right?
Absolutely.
Okay, and you were just telling me people pronounce that differently. So first of all, talk a little bit about the name of the band and how you came up with that, because it's quite unique.
Yeah, it is. So originally we had a guitar player in the band named Claudius Kramer, who most people might know him from Possessed. Now that's who he plays with, and he's the one actually recruited me in the band. So the band was named prior to my joining.
Oh, okay, interesting.
Yeah, so he had a former band called Serpent and Seraph, and they had a song called Tears of Niviane.
Oh, okay.
So when I joined, it was already in place, but it was, like you said, it was different. So I was like, oh, that's cool. It took me about 4 months to figure out how to pronounce it.
Yeah, that's the reason I asked, because I've heard of the band before, but I wasn't sure how to pronounce it. I thought it was Niviane, and you told me people talk about it, pronounce it differently, and so definitely it gets people talking about the name. And I know when you're coming up with a band name, that's usually one of the hardest things to do, and that name stands out, and first thing people are going to ask, oh, what is that? What does that mean? And the fact that people pronounce it differently, it definitely gets people talking. So how long has the band been around? And talk about how you got recruited to join the band.
So the band formed initially, I'd say, late, like winter of 2014.
Oh, wow.
They'll deny it, but they had a singer, actually, before me, that they were trying to write with and stuff. I guess it just wasn't working out. Anyway, it was about March of 2015, and I kind of had a falling out with some of my solo musicians in my band Skinner, my solo band. So I just put a post up saying, hey, I've got some free time, I'm looking for a new project. And then a friend of mine, Brian O'Connor, who used to sing for Vicious Rumors.
Oh, wow, okay.
Yeah, he hit me up and he's like, hey, Scoob's looking for a new singer, and that's what we call Claudius. His nickname's Scooby. So he goes, yeah, he's looking for a new singer for a power metal project. You'd be perfect for that. So I hit up Claudius, and then he's like, oh, I'd love to work with you. Yeah. And he didn't tell me they had a singer. He just said, I'd love to work with you. He sent me 3 songs on a Sunday. I wrote and demoed everything by Wednesday and got it back to him. He played it for the guys. The guys were like, oh, that dude's in. So I was in the band without meeting anybody. I just showed up for the first rehearsal.
Now let me ask you, Norman, when you joined up with the other guys, how important was it for them to kind of keep that sound, if you know what I mean? Or did they come in and say, you just do your thing and whatever it is, that's what comes out?
Yeah, I was given free reign.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah.
From day one, I guess they saw my history and everything I had done, and they're like, well, this guy knows what he's doing. So I went in, and when I say I was given free reign, I mean, I Benny Hanna'd their songs, man. I chopped them up and restructured them and everything. So
I mean, how many singers can say that? So oftentimes, when you're a replacement member, you're coming in and the band's kind of got an existing catalog. They tell you, look, don't stray too far outside of what we do. I mean, even look at a band like Iron Maiden, and the replacement singer is more popular than the original singer. So I mean, that's not too often the story. So if you can kind of come in and kind of help the band kind of relaunch and kind of at the same time put your stamp all over it, how great is that as a singer and a frontman?
Oh, absolutely. But I mean, it was still early. I mean, they had anything yet and all that. So, but yeah, I agree.
And now, from any of the older material that predates you being in the band, do you guys play any of that, or is it just kind of you stick with what you've done since you've been in the band?
No, I think that the first singer that they had, he wrote one song, and then I went ahead and just rewrote my own lyrics and my own vocal. Yeah. So other than that, they did let him record one song under a solo thing. Okay. That's available out there. But other than that, anything that anyone's heard on the albums is all
you. Oh, that's cool. And I was curious, how big of a Judas Priest fan are you?
Oh, I mean, I like them more than Iron Maiden.
Oh, yeah, okay, interesting. But the reason I'm asking is, I mean, who's not a Priest fan, like you said, but interestingly, I had the opportunity to go back and listen to the very first Judas Priest album, which of course is Rockarola. And like if you're a diehard Priest fan and Halford fan, and you have your idea of what Judas Priest is, I dare people go put that record on because it sounds like they sounded much more like a progressive rock band back then. If you listen to any of that stuff, it sounds kind of like Priest, but and a big reason for that I found out was that most of that stuff was written with their original singer Al Atkins. So Halford kind of joins the band at that time, and he's kind of going in and singing stuff that another guy wrote. But if you're a Priest fan, it's kind of fun to go back and listen to that stuff.
Yeah, it's fun when you hear any band's transition album.
Yeah.
Especially if it was written for a certain singer in mind, and then the new guy comes in.
Yeah.
You can kind of tell most of the time.
Yeah. And so let me ask you. You mentioned you joined in Niviane, and you had because your solo band kind of fell apart. And my question is, most solo artists say, okay, well, it's my band. I'm just going to replace these guys. So why did you not go that route?
Oh, I have.
Okay.
I mean, I still work. I have an upcoming new solo album called The Dark Design.
In fact, excuse me for interrupting. I was just going to say, is this I on your Facebook page? I think it was, and talking about you're working on a concept album. Is that what this is?
Yeah. So I have a lot of things. Let's just say I have a lot of irons in the fire.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah.
Yeah. So this year, I went ahead and stepped away from a couple of my projects. I distanced myself from Hellscream, which I released 2 albums with, and then I retired from Magica again after doing my 8th album, I think, or something, or 8th total. So I think it was like my 5th album total. So,
wow.
But yeah, I just needed to de-stress, declutter, so to speak.
Yeah.
From the plate, and then the concept album is something I've been writing for a project I created called Elementus.
Okay.
And it was going to be the debut, but honestly, I'm still unsure if I'm going to release it under my solo moniker Skinner,
okay,
or if I will release it under Elementus. So,
yeah. But
it's in the works. I only have 3 songs left to write, and then I can start tracking it.
So you got the solo band Skinner, but when you do a project like Niviane, what's that like? It's much more of a band kind of feeling, and you have your other bandmates to kind of feed off of.
Correct. Yeah. So with Skinner or even Elementus, it's my show. I'm the one that picks the songs and picks who I'm working with.
Yeah.
And, oversees every aspect. With Niviane, it's much more of a band thing. I mean, they might say they say I manage the band.
Okay.
And stuff like that, and I kind of help drive things. But yeah, everybody has to say. It's very much a democracy.
Oh, that's cool. And so what's going on with that band now? Like, are you guys working towards a new album? Got any plans for doing any live shows?
So we have one more local show at the end of this month in the San Francisco Bay Area.
Okay.
That will be playing, and that's it for this year. Currently, we're working on one last music video to support our current release, The Ruthless Divine.
Wow.
So we'll be doing one more music video for a track off that album. Sorry.
Okay.
And then we are hopefully going to be tracking album number 3, January, February. Start doing drums because it's all written. It's ready to go.
And you got all these different projects, and that's cool to keep you busy. I mean, probably one guy I know that's just as busy as you is Sean Peck. He's in like 3 different bands and always got something going, and that's cool. Like, and when with all your different bands, do you like to kind of like I think the point of doing all these bands is like when you're working with each project, you don't want them all to sound the same. So how hard is that for you? Like, when you go.
It's easy for me because like Niviane is very, very much, heavy power metal.
Okay.
And then kind of to go full circle, Hellscream, the band that I just stepped away from, I mean, we're very much speed metal or traditional,
Yeah.
And what's funny about that band is Hellscream, for those that don't know, is basically the band Cage or the band Three Tremors.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And instead of Sean singing, I'm singing. So it's all the same members. So yeah, we have those 2 albums out.
In fact, I have an interview I'm going to be posting with Sean Peck about the new Three Tremors on Monday, and he was sharing with me that his drummer from Cage is also the same drummer now in KK's Priest. How cool is that?
Yeah, that's very cool.
Yeah. And so like, let me ask you, Norman, as far as when you go in and write, and you start writing, like, do you know right away, like, which project it's going to be for, or do you not write anything until you're getting ready to, record an album?
So it's funny that you ask that question, because I don't play any instruments, right? So I wait till music is submitted, and then once the music is submitted, usually it's all Niviane stuff. Well, let's just take that.
Okay,
so they'll submit it, but every once in a while, I'll hear a track and I know it'll fit something I'm working on, so I'll pillage it.
Yeah.
I'll be like, hey, I'm going to steal this from the Niviane queue. I want to use it for this. And the guys are fine with that, because either way, they're still getting to write and record with me, whether it be on one album or something else.
Yeah, and like you said, you're into the third album now. So I was curious, like, do you guys have a vault of like unreleased material, like just sitting around that maybe you revisit every time you go into a recording studio, or do you kind of have a feeling like, well, if it didn't make it onto an album, then maybe it's not that good?
Yeah, we scrap a lot of stuff. So each album, our first album, I think we scrapped one track that didn't make it, and then our second release, we must have scrapped at least 4 or 5 songs. There are some. We have a voting process where we all kind of rank our songs. So if they're close and they didn't make it, then we'll revisit it. But if it misses out on 2 passes of voting, then we just scrap it. But we scrap a lot. We scrap a lot of songs. We want to make sure that only the best material, in our eyes anyway, makes it on the album.
Have you ever had like fans kind of test the material, like play a song for a fan and kind of see what they think of it before it gets released?
No, you know what's funny is what was it called? I think the band. I think it was Bon Jovi.
Yeah.
On their first 2 or 3 albums, they had what's called the pizza pie jury.
Yeah. I remember that. Yeah.
And that's how they would pick their favorite songs that would go on the album. They'd let fans do it. Yeah. I think that's a good idea. But I don't know. We do the same thing, except it's just us voting.
Yeah. I mean, the band. You'd think the band has a better idea, anyways. But it's kind of funny because, like you said, sometimes you hear about these bands. They have a huge hit with a song. They're like, you know what? We thought that was a dud song on the album, but that's the one that everybody reacted to for whatever reason.
It's true.
Yeah,
I mean, so far the singles that we release, they seem to be the crowd favorites anyway.
Yeah.
So, but we do a lot of since we play a lot, and even on our last tour that we just completed, we played a new song that we think is going to be a big hit on the next album. So, we try to perform these things live and see how they go over.
Oh wow! And so, how much has COVID and all these lockdowns and everything affected you? Pretty much, I would imagine. Like, I'm in Southern California, you guys are in Northern California, but everywhere you go, they're making you mask up and everything up there.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much. I think it's the same up here than it is down there. I mean, live shows are returning.
That's good, at least.
We were worried about the tour that we just did with Soulfly. We were wondering if it was actually going to happen or what. We went and we played it. There was only one, I think it was St. Louis, that had a mandatory vaccination or test results before you could go inside.
See, that's the thing gets to me that kind of is getting in the way of people going to live shows. I mean, I understand the safety precautions and stuff, but I think, all this stuff about, if you're vaccinated, about having to prove it and all, and it's kind of like, what's the point of getting vaccinated? We still, kind of don't have that freedom like we used to. I mean, I was getting to a point where, like, I couldn't believe for a year of my life, couldn't even go to a freaking movie theater, and I got to the point where I'm happy things are starting to kind of, open up finally. Like, man, I never enjoyed going to the house so much, and as a working musician, I'm sure you guys had that feeling like, oh my God, I mean, are we ever going to get to do a live show again?
Yeah, it sucked for a while there. I mean, right now, the fact that we're getting show offers again, and and then by the time we do touring, it'll probably be summertime again. So hopefully it'll be even better by then.
And so, you mentioned you had a tour with Soulfly. What was that like? That had to be totally cool. And how many shows was that for?
I think we did I think it was 13 shows.
Oh, wow.
We started in Arizona and we ended in Rhode Island. and it was good, man. Their camp is all very professional. They treated us well. The fans, even though we're somewhat of a different style, the fans ate it up. They were like, oh, you know.
Because I think your music's still metal enough for that crowd, you know.
Yeah, well, of course we played, you know, some of our heavier set.
Yeah.
Luckily we have, you know, enough. Our songs are diverse enough where we can tailor our set for whatever crowd that we get. But we sold tons of merchandise, made a lot of new fans.
And so
great.
So how did you guys land that tour? Was it a matter of a band's management reaching out to you, or somebody from their label?
So we were with our former management company, and then they offered us tour offers that we were coming in, and I think this one seemed like a good deal, and everything, you know, the monies and everything worked out. So, you know, we took it.
And like you said, the band's been around since 2014. So like, you guys seem like you're one of those bands that, you know, you definitely got a kind of, I don't know if I want to say cult following, but people definitely have heard of a band. It might even be one of those things where, oh yeah, I've heard of that band, but maybe somebody can't maybe necessarily name like all your songs or whatever, but it's like, I've heard of that band, who are they? And you know, you have a band that kind of never goes away, and I think the longer you're around, more and more people are finally starting to hear about this band.
Yeah, we're still, I mean, I still consider us somewhat new. I mean, we're emerging, you know, going on to album 3, so, you know, it's, the buzz is definitely there. I mean, before our first album was out, we put up one YouTube video, and it was just a really, you know, it just had a picture of the album cover and then the words at the bottom for our single, The Berserker, and, you know, it jumped to over 10,000 views you know, fast, and we're like, oh, wow, okay.
Yeah, YouTube and that is a double-edged thorn, because, I mean, on one hand, like what you just said about that video, 10,000 hits, that's amazing, you know, for a relatively new band. I mean, but look what, you know, if MTV was even still around, and you're trying to get on Headbangers Ball, like so many were back in the day. I mean, look what bands used to have to go just to get their video featured on Headbangers Ball or something like that. Now, you know, it's just really up to the band to kind of post their stuff and see if people respond to it. And that's the one cool thing about YouTube, because I can't tell you how many bands I find on YouTube as far as reaching out to bands to interview and stuff that I would not hear of otherwise, you know. And I think that's the cool thing about it. But at the same time, you got sites like YouTube and Facebook telling you what you can or can't say. I mean, you probably seen the post when I was announcing I was going to do an interview with you today, the other day. I was trying to post that not only was I going to do your interview, but next week I have this interview coming up with this band called Breed of Aggression. And just based on typing those words, Breeds of Aggression, it would not let me post it. And you know, I heard of a band, Suicidal Tendencies, legendary metal band, been around for years. They got locked out of their own Facebook page just based on the name of the band.
I was like, whoa, that's gotta suck.
Yeah, and then they even try to do stuff where somebody was telling me, like Facebook, for example, they don't want you liking more than 10 pages a day, or trying to like if you have a page or something, they don't want you trying to add more than 10 people a day. Otherwise, they try to block how many people are seeing what you post and stuff like that. And even if you remember at the beginning of the pandemic, a lot of bands were starting to have like these streaming concerts and these streaming events, and it got real popular for a while, but then all of a sudden Facebook started to shut that stuff down, because they thought, okay, well, if you're going to use our platform, then we better be making some money off these events people are hosting, you know? They always find a way to ruin things, you know? It's just amazing.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of people, more and more people are getting disgruntled with the whole Facebook. It's never been a perfect platform for music.
It's a necessary evil at the same time, because you do get get the word out to your fans, you know, and so there is that. And so talk a little bit about the power of the internet, because I'd imagine if you didn't even have a website, or you weren't online anyhow, it'd be a lot harder for people to find out about your band.
Oh yeah, we would be popular here in town only.
Yeah. Yeah, and how involved are you with all that? Because you know, I know a lot of times people are really into promoting their own bands and stuff, and I say that's good, because who the hell is going to promote your stuff better than you? You know. Right.
Yeah. I mean, we do. You know, all of us are on some social media except our bass player. He's like antisocial.
Yeah.
But But I'll post things on our Facebook. I handle our website. Our guitar player, Mark Miner, he does our Instagram. Twitter, we just have it linked to where whatever we post on our Facebook automatically just gets thrown on the Twitter.
Yeah, okay.
So we don't have to worry about that. But, YouTube, we try to put some content up here and there. And then, it's, there's a million other platforms that are, I guess, less popular. But,
yeah, I think that's the one thing needs to change. I think as great of a necessary evil as you can say Facebook is, it's got its pros and cons like anything. I do think that would maybe make it a little better if they had like competition of some kind. If you had other platforms were at that same level, where people were able to kind of go and do their thing. So hopefully that will come up one day. But I was curious, Norman, talking a little bit more about your background when you were first starting out. Like, what was the point in life when you knew you wanted to be a singer, or was it a matter of somebody telling you, hey, Norman, you're a pretty good singer? Did you ever think of tell that story?
Well, none of that ever happened.
Yeah. This
was complete accident, honestly.
Hey.
I was in I think I was a junior in high school.
Okay.
I was just hanging out with some friends that were, playing guitar and stuff.
Yeah.
They got a band together to do the high school talent show.
Wow.
And they had a singer from the choir, I guess the school choir or whatever.
Okay, yeah.
Gonna sing. Anyway, he bailed on them like a week and a half or 2 weeks before the show. And since I was the one that was just hanging out, they're like, dude, you gotta sing. I'm like, I don't sing. Yeah. Anyway, so but I was up, I'm one of those guys that's always up for an adventure or whatever.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, I'll do it. So.
And what was that first performance like for you? I mean, how did the crowd react? Was it anything you thought it would be?
We got disqualified because all the kids were stage diving and pitting on stage.
Oh, boo.
So, yeah, we played, we wanted to play, I guess they wanted to play the two most popular new songs that were out at that time, and this will give my age away. So we played Inner Sandman and Smells Like Teen Spirit.
Oh, wow. Inner Sandman, and let me ask you about Inner Sandman, because as you know, this year marks the 30th anniversary of the Black Album. So obviously you're a Metallica fan at that point, but had you been a Metallica fan before that?
Yeah, so it was I think it was And Justice for All was the first album I heard that got me into Metallica.
Okay, so here's a question for you. That's the album that gets you into Metallica, and they released the Black Album a number of years later, and people have a reaction to that album. They either really, really love it, or they're like, they went pop, they sold out. What was your reaction when you first?
I loved it. At that time, I was in high school. They were my favorite band.
Yeah.
And I still think it's a very strong metal album.
Yeah, I don't care about it. I mean, what I care about is I put it on, I dig it, I enjoy it, and I tell you, still 30 years later, that's the riff in that song. I mean, you listen to that riff sticks in your head. You just cannot get it out of your head, and that's why it's one of those songs, like you said, kind of a very influential song, and you just can't get around that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they definitely had a lot of hit and miss after that.
Yeah. But that, it's kind of interesting the time you became a Metallica fan, as you tell, because that's right after Cliff Burton dies and New State comes in, and then there's all the controversy about And Justice for All, how they turned his bass down. But he's kind of left his mark too, in Metallica all these years later.
Yep.
Yeah, and so besides Metallica, especially as far as singers that influenced you, who are the guys that influenced you?
Vocally?
Yeah, vocally.
I would say, what I go through stages. I mean, when I first was starting out, I was listening to like Sebastian Bach, Robert Plant, guys like that.
And it's kind of like the two spectrums. Robert Plant is on one spectrum, and Sebastian Bach is on the other. But that's kind of cool. That's probably why you're more versatile of a vocalist. Like probably anybody who listens to you would not have a clue that you were a fan of Sebastian Bach. But I think that's what makes you a more rounded musician, because I think the more different types of music you listen to, the better musician you're going to be.
Yeah, I mean, I went through my stages.
Like anybody, yeah. There's nothing wrong
for
with
heavier stuff.
Yeah.
I'm a huge Chuck Billy fan.
Oh, wow.
Investment. I like Jesse Leach from Killswitch Engage for the heavy stuff.
Yeah.
It just depends on what I'm singing. I mean, I don't stick to one style.
So,
People that listen to my stuff, they know I sing the gauntlet.
As you just told the story, you got your start in singing basically through doing a talent show with some, friends at school. Now, what was the point when you thought, okay, maybe I should give this singing thing a try? And did you have a typical start like a lot of people where you're playing in cover bands, or from the get-go did you want to write your own original tunes?
No, I never did any of the cover scene. I did join a band where we played maybe 3 shows doing Black Sabbath songs because we were writing our own stuff at the time. But other than that, no, it's always been original. I think I joined I joined a band called Tramontaine in the mid-90s, and they already had like worldwide demos, like 2 or 3 demos out, and getting a lot of underground press. And I was they were all older than I was, and I was this kid coming in, about 20 years old. And I just, I could tell that I was the weak link in the band. So that's when I decided I'd start taking some vocal lessons here and there and learning how to actually do things properly.
Yeah. And you seem to me, when I listen to some of the stuff you've done, like you're a very emotive singer. Like, for example, you like when you go to sing a song, you're kind of maybe listening to the lyrics that you wrote and kind of emoting the vocals. Is that how you try to do it?
Yeah, I'm a very I get the music, I get my structure together, and then I work on my melodies. Because for me, I want to make sure I have all my melodies first. Then I spend a lot of time on my lyrics. I don't want to be one of those lyricists where it's just like, God, those are horrible lyrics. I want people to read it and be like, oh, this is bullshit.
I mean, it could go one of two ways. Because like, you take a singer like David Lee Roth. He's not the world's greatest singer, but for what he did in Van Halen, he worked with what he had, and you can't argue
for a party band.
Yeah, and a lot of the lyrics, if you listen to his stuff, is really nonsensical, and you're like, what the hell is he even singing about? But it doesn't really matter. It works for him. But I agree with you. I think my favorite bands and my favorite singers are the ones that are great writers. That they tell a story. And I listen for everything from Kiss and Whitesnake, Aerosmith, Deep Purple, Tom Petty, the Eagles, and a lot of those bands I listed. If you notice, the one thing they have in common is great songwriting, and I think that's why if somebody listens to one of your songs, it's got to be a great feeling to have somebody come up maybe after a show and tell you, Norman, I listened to this album, I listened to the song you wrote, and it took me back to maybe when I lost my father or something. It touched me like that, and you're like, wow, I didn't even write it about losing somebody, but man, if it touched you like that, great.
Right.
Yeah. And that's kind of got to be interesting when you hear other people's interpretations of your songs, or kind of what it meant to them.
Yeah, I just love seeing people sing along, and sometimes I'll see someone in the audience crying. I'm like, whoa, this is.
yeah, and you kind of think, wow, my words or my song is really affecting that person, or the words I took the time to write. And talk about when you perform for a live audience. Like, have you ever toured outside the U.S., like in other countries?
Yeah, we did. We've been up to Canada.
Oh, wow.
With Niviane. So we've done 3 tours in our career. So they've all been the U.S. and Canada.
Oh,
so
okay.
This particular band has not been overseas yet. But
yeah.
That should change hopefully soon.
And of course, when you play in Northern California, you're playing more to like a home crowd. But when you get to like outside your local area, what are the crowds like there?
It depends. I mean, like we've been on tours where it's hit and miss. I mean, we never go out headlining. Of course, we're not that dumb. Of course, in Northern California or even parts of Nevada, every show we do, we headline because we're like big fish in a small pond, right?
Yeah.
But then when we get out of that pond, then it's like, no, we need to make sure we're supporting, bigger bands.
Well, you're smart. I mean, and it's not every band that can be the support band on a Soulfly tour, you know. So the fact that you've reached that level, that says something about the talent in the band.
Well, I agree. I mean, we're hoping to, snag another big tour to support our next album, and just keep doing it. Just keep kind of climbing the ladder. None of us have any delusions of grandeur or anything. We're just in it for the ride as long as we can.
And I think that's why people dig what you guys do, because it doesn't seem like it's a band full of egos, you know. And you guys kind of, as Judas Priest would say, you've been delivering the goods. And what I dig about bands like you guys is there are so many bands that for the last several years, even since this COVID stuff especially, kind of got into the routine of, you know what, we're not going to release any new music, we're not going to go on tour, you know what, we're just going to live off our catalog of music, nobody's buying CDs. And I mean, you could get to the point and say, oh, well, we got 3 albums worth of material, we'll just go out and play that catalog of stuff. But I dig the fact that you continue to go out there and do live shows. You continue to give your fans new music, because that's what it's all about. I mean, there are bands like, Kiss and Poison that can go out. I mean, Poison, they only go out like for 3 months, in the summer. They make bank. They do the greatest hits tour every year. But, no new music. And I guess it works for some bands, and some bands it doesn't. But that's great that you guys continue to be creative.
Yeah, that's why I'm in it anyway.
Yeah.
That would... God, that just sounds horrible. I would hate to just be like in a band where it's like, hey guys, we're gonna go out for 3 months. Never working on any new music. Like the creativity, I think, would just die. I mean,
it's crazy. The band like Mr. Big. Since their drummer died a few years ago, I think they've broken up. But before that, they because they were huge in Japan. In Japan, apparently Mr. Big is like the Beatles, and they would go do 5 shows a year in Japan. And they do a few shows around the U.S., but they make bank for a year. It's just amazing that some bands are able to do that.
Right.
Yeah, and you just never know where a band's going to kind of have that spark, or kind of be really popular. As far as being on the internet about it, you must get messages from people all around the world and kind of telling you how great your music is, and you're like, man, we haven't played a live show in that part of the world, but yet somebody's across the ocean listening to our music.
Yeah, it always trips me out, especially when they order, bulk stuff from us, and we're shipping, and it's like, God, they paid so much money just to get some of this stuff shipped to them. You know?
Yeah. Well, I'm talking from my, my home today, and near Los Angeles, California, and you would think, especially when I was growing up back in the day, there were record stores all over the place, but I pretty much get my music online and Amazon and that, because they don't have record stores, sadly, like they used to. The last great record store was Tower Records in my mind, and I used to spend hours there, and I think kids today are missing that experience of spending all day in the record store. I remember before I even knew who Iron Maiden was, going in a record store and seeing Number of a Beast and having no idea who they were. I just saw the album cover. I was like, what the hell is that? I have to get this.
Yeah, I remember those days.
Yeah,
I remember digging through, used stores, and your fingers are caked in dust from looking through the CDs and trying to find the imports. And
Oh yeah. Well, that used to be fun too, finding the imports. Because a lot of times they'd release stuff that didn't get released in the States, and you'd be like, you'd almost feel like it was a new album. You're getting a new album because stuff you never heard before.
Yeah, they put all the B-sides on it, and then you get all those special CD singles and things that weren't released here.
Yeah, back in the day when they still were releasing, singles on 45. I remember Def Leppard was one of those bands that, they'd have the hit single, and then they'd turn it over, and on the B side they'd have some unreleased track that you never heard of,
Yep.
Or it wasn't on an album or something, and you really felt like you were getting something, special. And now, are you guys signed to a label, or do you release your music independently?
We're currently signed to Pure Steel Records, and then so our first album we were on Pitch Black Records, and then we moved on to Pure Steel Records for our last album. So
now they're based out of Europe, right?
Yeah, they're out of Germany.
Oh yeah, I've heard of some of the stuff they put out, and it's kind of a cool label. And unfortunately, it's based in Europe. But the cool thing about it, a lot of the stuff they have on that label, as you probably know, a lot of people from Europe buy that stuff and support it, and I think a lot of times European fans, they love their metal bands,
Yeah, Yeah, especially power metal. I mean, our genre is definitely more popular there than here.
Yeah. And it's kind of like it'd be cool if you guys ever got an opportunity to go over, because I'm sure you would just kill it in Europe.
Yeah, well, I mean, we're working on everything little by little, so
who knows?
We'll see what album 3, what opportunities it opens up for us.
Yeah, and in prepping for an interview that we're doing right now, I went on your Facebook page, and there it was called episode 10 or something, like almost like you were doing a podcast or something. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Episode 10.
Like Will Hunter, I forget. I gotta. Yeah. I forget what it was. Yeah.
Okay. So that's.
You're kind of being funny. That's why I asked. Yeah.
I've never talked about this one in an interview before. So no, whenever we go on tour,
yeah,
we just have this. I don't know. It started 3 tours ago where it was one video where I was like trying to pretend to be like the crocodile hunter or something.
Oh, okay.
And I heard like the sound, you know, and I was describing the stench and everything, and it was just my bass player snoring on the bus.
Oh, okay.
And then that just turned into this whole thing where we like created this whole different kingdom in this world.
Wow.
With this hunt, and the fans just ate it up, so we always post these little. We only do it when we're on tour.
Now I'll tell you. Now you're probably like thinking, why the hell do you ask about that? But I'll tell you why. Because it got my attention as I'm watching that. You know, this guy's got a great kind of sense of humor, and I dig that about people. You know, because you got people that all metal all the time, or they're really kind of they don't have a great sense of humor. So I think it's cool to have other aspects of your personality kind of come out like that, and it shows. Oh, this is a fun guy. You know, he knows how to have fun.
Yeah, we like to keep it light, especially on tour when things can get kind of mundane or they can get hectic, you know. So, yeah, we just, we have a plan where we're going to create and no band has done this in a while, but you remember like Kiss used to have like Kiss cards or
cool.
Ozzy cards, Metallica cards.
Yeah.
So we're thinking we're going to put together a couple packs where you don't know which cards you're going to get, and we'll have Niviane cards that fans can buy, and then we're also going to work with some artists and kind of turn that tour world, the hunt, the magic hunt and everything, kind of put those on the cards too, and just have some fun with it.
I mean that's cool when you do stuff like that, because again, you're giving your fans a little something like extra. I mean, I had this bass player recently tell me that he was coming up with some new merchandise to sell, in relation to his band. He's like, we're gonna sell socks, and we're gonna put our band's name on some socks, and just to be a little different, and I dig stuff like that, and even a guy I know in a Kiss tribute band, he's like, he did the same thing because he's a huge Kiss fan. He's like we got our own trading card set, like just like Kiss did, and I'm like, for a tribute band, how cool is that?
That's very cool.
Yeah,
I think I always look at other bands' merch booths because I never know when I'm going to see something where I'm like, damn, that was a cool idea. Wish I would have thought of it, but I'm going to steal it.
Yeah, and that's another thing that I miss from, I'm an old school guy. I miss from back in the day when I was growing up. A lot of times you go to live shows, and depending on where they have a show, a lot of times they don't even have a merch booth. Or go on our website and order everything. But I think I love the shows where you go and you see the bands play, and then they do have a merch booth. And if you want to support your band, you can go. And a lot of times that's when people will buy a CD. If you're selling the CD at the show, they'll buy it there because they want to support the band. But I know a lot of times otherwise people aren't really into buying CDs. Like, for example, I'll pay for the latest single. I'll pay 99 cents and buy the single. I don't need the whole album. But again, if you have it at the show, maybe they'll buy it. I mean, I remember years ago when Tesla put out a cover CD. It was like 2-volume CD, and you could go to the local Best Buy and get volume 1. But if you want to get volume 2, you had to go to see the band live, and as you're going into the concert, they hand you a free CD. But I thought, that's kind of a cool way of doing it,
Yeah.
So
that is pretty cool.
It's about kind of giving your fans a little something extra, kind of being creative. Now, as far as physical CDs, like, do you still have available? People want physical copies.
We do sell them still at shows or on our website. Mm-hmm. Of course, you can find them on most.
Yeah.
Our stuff's available everywhere. But as far as physical copies that we have,
well, I mean, like, I guess what I'm asking, if people want to still get a physical copy? Are they able to?
Yeah,
okay.
Absolutely.
That's cool because a lot of bands just put their stuff up digitally now. As far as that, Norman, how are the digital sites working for you as far as streaming streaming your albums, and you get a lot of hits that way? And as far as making any money off the streaming services, how quickly does that money come in for like a band like you guys?
Well, so since we're on labels, we don't ever see any streaming money.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's not working. But I mean, I've released things myself, Skinner stuff, little singles and whatnot, and
yeah,
the money comes in, but it's every once in a long while. It takes a lot of streaming to see any of that money. I look at it this way nowadays.
Yeah.
The music is almost free.
Yeah, it's almost a vehicle. Yeah.
Yeah, you're just giving it away. If somebody wants an actual copy, they can buy it. But that's mainly for collectors or people that just like to hold it in their hand. But
I mean, even when I go driving, I like to have a CD list. I still got a CD player in my car. I like to put something in to listen to it, during the drive. That's just me, though. But you also got some cool looking music videos up. Talk about that. I mean, talk about your experience as far as like making music videos. Because again, like I said, it looks pretty professional. I mean, when you do it, is it an all day event? Like.
Yes, definitely. The planning takes months and months. I'm just anti like doing basic boring videos.
Yeah.
If we're gonna do it, I want to do it right. So I do all of the screenwriting for it and storyboarding, and then we make sure that we work with a good team and good director, and I tell them what I want, and I give them a shot list of what I'm looking for, and I'm very much involved in our music videos. Because
that's the cool thing to me. Like I was looking at some of the videos you had up, and to me it's, which it should be, nice eye candy. And I think you've accomplished that goal. And I mean, it's visually pleasing. I cannot say any of those videos up there are boring to look at. And so mission accomplished there. But I think the cool thing too, if you're going to go to all that work and making it look so great and special, at least it's much easier these days where you can just have the ability to post your videos on YouTube or on any of your sites. I mean, you don't have to go through begging MTV or radio stations like bands did back in the day. It's much easier to get your stuff out there, which I think is cool.
Absolutely. That's why we're working on one more music video for this album before we move on.
And Norman, Halloween just passed. How did you celebrate? I mean, are you into horror movies or anything? Like, do you like to around that time of year watch any of those classic horror movies or anything? Or what's your tradition?
I have a teenage daughter, and she's really, really big into horror movies. Mm-hmm. So I just let her, for the whole month of October, we just watch horror movies. And I let her pick what she wants to watch, and she'll throw on things we've never seen or classics or whatever.
I'll tell you a real fun one. I'm going to be posting a show on Saturday that I did on with a friend of mine on Young Frankenstein. I don't know if you've ever seen that. It's kind of a
with Gene Wilder.
Yeah. It's kind of a comedic spoof on Frankenstein, but I haven't seen it in years, and we're going to do a show. So I got a DVD, and it's just hilarious to watch. And in doing research for a show, come to find out that the Aerosmith song "Walk This Way," there's a line where one of the actors says "Walk This Way," and when that movie came out, I think it was like 1974, and Steven Tyler went to a screening of a film, and when he heard that line, he wrote the very next day, he wrote the song "Walk This Way." I'd never known that, but I'm like, wow, that's kind of amazing just to hear that story. And then Frankenstein, the original Frankenstein and Dracula, which predates you and me, 1931 it came out. Those films are turning 90 years old this year.
That's crazy.
That's crazy, and just to watch these old films is kind of fun too, because you see all the advances there have been in movie making since they first started. Because like going back to 1931 for the very first Frankenstein, and that, I mean, those were some of the first talking movies. It's just amazing to see how things have advanced.
Yeah, they still hold up today.
Yeah, and I think some of these classic films, like you said, they hold up all these years later. And black and white, makes it look, I think, really authentic.
No, absolutely.
Yeah, and so I was going to ask you a final question today. You talked a lot about different bands and singers that influenced you. Is there an album that you can kind of point to and say, this album in my collection had a huge influence on me? I'm sure you have many of those albums, but you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's tough. You know what? How about, I would say, just off the top of my head.
Yeah.
One that sticks out where I listened and I was like, just wow, would be Resurrection by Halford.
Okay, and the reason I'm asking, Norman, I want you to think about this because I have another interview series I do called, it's on the same site we post this stuff, but it's called On the Record, where we talk to guys like you who are actual musicians about albums that had, that kind of influence on them. Like what you tell me, okay, well, the one that really kind of comes to mind is Resurrection. So what I'd like to do is do a follow-up interview with you maybe down the line after this post, and we could talk specifically about that album and Halford and why that album has so much of a huge influence on you. You don't really need to explain to me, but I think that would be a fun interview to do.
Oh yeah, I mean, there's so many albums that come to mind, honestly.
Oh yeah. I mean, we could do more than one. In fact, in some of these interviews, I've interviewed some of these musicians more than once because, like you said, there's so many albums I could pick. But maybe you think about it, and we could talk about Halford, or if you think about another one you'd rather talk about, we could do more than one interview. But I think that would be fun to do. So think on that, and I will reach out to you in a couple of months and see what you feel like doing.
That sounds great, man. I'm all for it.
And then finally, what do you? I mean, it's hard to believe it. 2022 is right around the corner. I mean, any big plans to close out this year? I mean, when you think about it, we only got November, December.
No, I think the remainder of this year is really just going to be tying up a couple of these last tracks. Yeah, before we start tracking the third Niviane album, and then I got music finishing up for my Skinner. So really, 2022 is going to start off with a bang. I mean, I'm going to be recording vocals for the new Skinner album, probably going to start tracking that Elementis project as well as the third Niviane album. So
now the Niviane album, do you think that'll come first before any of the other albums come out?
No, I think that the Skinner, The Dark Design, will be my next official studio release. Well,
let's keep in touch, definitely, Norman, and you let Ben know when any of the albums are ready to drop, and I'd love to interview about Skinner or whatever comes out first. So let's keep in touch.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, take care, my friend. It was great catching up with you.
Thanks, buddy. You have a great day.
Okay, bye-bye.